All right, man. Well, how are things there in quarantine, and how's training going?
Well, I mean, quarantine's been crazy. I'm not used to being so like on idle. I'm always on the go. I'm always traveling for training. I'm always around people. So it's rough getting used to, and I just started kind of getting out of my shell a little bit and doing my own routines, training wise. And now I got somebody, one of my close friends that's also been in quarantine that I've been working with, just me and him one-on-one, just to get some more training in rather than just some like strength and conditioning and shadow box we can actually roll. So it feels good. It feels good to be alive again, I'll tell you that.
Is the gym open, or are you just mainly doing it at like a friend's house?
Well, the gym's not technically open, but I have a key.
Okay.
So I kind of just go in, and there hasn't been any classes. They do the Zoom thing, but I'm allowed to go in and do my own thing as long as we obviously clean up and stuff, and we stay to a small area. But it's not open to the public. But just for us to keep our sanity, me and my buddy, it's just kind of one-on-one.
Yeah, you recently you were fighting for CFFC, and that correct me if I'm wrong. You gave up your belt there due to inactivity and them not being able to find you some fights. Can you kind of go over exactly what happened there?
Yeah, so pretty much like you said it. I mean, they couldn't find me a fight. I cleaned up the whole division for the last 7 or 8 years for the most part.
Yeah.
And it got to the point where I kind of outgrew where I was, and it didn't make sense business wise for them to bring anybody else in, because I kind of hit that like plateau of what a regional person can make financially and what would be beneficial for the business. So by them flying somebody in from another country or cross country, it costs them a decent amount of money for a regional promotion. And with where my pay grade was, with having so many fights and constantly winning, my pay had to keep going up a little bit. And it just got to the point where it didn't make sense for them. I didn't feel like I deserved a pay cut for what I've done. So we kind of just came to the agreement of letting me go and try to fight elsewhere. Do I think that CFFC could have done better for me marketing wise while I was champion? Definitely. Do I think that they could have brought in other fighters? Definitely. Would it have probably cost them some money? Yeah. But I felt like I've done enough for the promotion in the last 10 years or so that maybe they owed me a fight or two that they could kind of take it on the chin and maybe not make money off me, just to get me another fight to keep me active. Yeah. And for whatever the reason, it just didn't seem like they wanted to do that. And I can understand from a business standpoint, but I've been with them for so long, I just felt like I deserved it. And I cleaned out my division, and it was time for the up-and-comers, so to speak, to have a chance. And so that's pretty much where we were at. And, they agreed to let me go so I can try to fight elsewhere, because I was under contract with them. And I haven't really had much success with obviously everything going on and things getting shut down. But I'm still trying to fight for whoever, wherever, whenever, try to stay ready. And that's also why I've been training now, keeping my weight down, because if something comes up, I want to make sure I can step in, short notice, wherever it is.
Yeah, I mean, I think as far as I know, and I think a lot of other people agree, you're probably the best 125er that's not signed to Bellator or UFC. And I was going through I was just scrolling through your Tapology. I was just like, how has he not fought for UFC? I mean, you've got 30 fights, right? That's unheard of at 125.
Mm-hmm. I have a great finish rate, in my opinion. Yeah. Sometimes, I'm getting people that are giving me a hard time about my finish rate, because I don't have a 90% finish rate. But what these guys don't understand is I have 30 fights. Yeah. To have 30 fights and have a 90% finish rate is unheard of, especially at flyweight. There's nobody that has that at any weight class, you know? So out of 23 wins, I have 14 finishes. I think that's pretty good. And I'm getting overlooked by these guys that are 6-2 with 5 finishes. When I was 6-2, I had 6 finishes, you know? So it's like I have, you know, 5 times as many fights as these guys. Not only that, 5 times as many wins, but my first half of my career, I fought at 135, and I was still finishing guys.
Okay.
So, you know, it does make me wonder why they won't give me an opportunity. And if they think I can't finish guys, hey, put me in with whoever you think and let me show you what I got. You know, shut me up that way. And I just haven't had that opportunity yet. And I don't know if they're going to, if the promotions are going to give it to me or not. But, you know, I'm staying humble. I'm staying ready. And I just want a chance to prove to them that, you know, I'm not just one of the best flyweights not signed to a big promotion, but I'm one of the best flyweights in the world today, right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think the fact that I thought after you beat Inoue, I thought you were going to get a shot because I was like, this guy's just beat a guy that was just released from the UFC. So you beat some top guys. Yeah.
You know, dominated. It wasn't even a close fight.
Yep. So I think how has exploring been going? Have you heard from any other promotions like LFA even, or not at all?
I tried to fight for LFA for, I would say, about 6 or 7 years. I was actually going back through emails back when they were RFA and Legacy. I tried fighting for them, and I couldn't ever get a fight. And I think it's because of my record at the time. I think I had like 14 or 15 wins. And the thing is, from a business standpoint, and it's something I understand simply from experience and being around the fight game for 12 years, is if I am, say, 14-4 or 15-4, and they want to bring me in to fight for the organization in Texas or California, I have to fight one of their top guys because of my record. And the chance of me going over there and fighting maybe for their belt and then me winning it, they have to bring me back over. So from a business standpoint, I'm not selling tickets in Texas or California or wherever it is. It costs money to fly me in. It costs money to fly my corner in, put me in a hotel. And then for me to go and, you know, say, beat one of their guys, they don't want to do that from a business standpoint. So I can understand that, you know, but it's still frustrating because I believe in putting on the best fights. And if you think that your guy is the best in the world, let him prove it and fight another best in the world guy, regardless if it costs you, you know, a couple $1,000, you put on the show. So all the time I'm on social media and I see, hey, looking for a flyweight, and I throw my name out there and they're like, oh, no. And it's like, so why are you posting looking for a flyweight if you're picking and choosing who you can have matched up? You know, and I tried to fight on short notice for LFA for their title. It was on less than a week's notice against that kid Royval, who's their champion, who's going to be fighting the contender. I hit them up when I found out that he lost his opponent. Never heard back from them. And they went and got a kid, Nate Williams, who I fought and finished to fight on short notice. So, you know, it just makes me wonder, you're obviously setting your guys up for success, you know, but you're not putting on the best fights. And then they're getting pushed into the contender series and I'm getting passed up because they're protecting their guys. And I'm always a believer, let the best fighter move forward in his career, you know, not politics, not adding records. I never turned down a fight. I've always turned down a fight, 25, 35, you know, I've always turned down a fight. I've always stepped up. I've always, you know, sold tickets. I've always done everything. Never missed weight, took fights on short notice, fought twice in a 7-day period. You know, like, that's just my mentality as a fighter. And I just feel that this new generation of fighters are spoiled because the bigger promotions have shown that they don't take the best fighters. They simply take people that are on win streaks. It doesn't matter strength of opponent. If a guy's 5-0 and he's beating 5 tomato cans, then he'll get in over a guy that's fought tougher competition. So unfortunately, that seems to be the world of mixed martial arts this day and age, which sucks because every other major sporting event, the best running back, the best point guard, the fastest guy, like they get in. The best guys in that area always get on to the biggest promotion, or the major leagues, so to speak. And with MMA, it just doesn't seem like that's it.
Yeah, it seems to be about marketability, and if this guy's 8-0 and he's young and hungry and good looking, he's got a better shot than someone who's 35-3 or 35-4 who's had harder, stiffer competition. Like you said, I think you look at guys like Sage Northcutt and they got rushed into it simply because of their marketability. You've fought 30 times, 31 times, I think 23-7. And someone who has 30 fights at flyweight, I don't think there's anybody even in the UFC that has a record like that.
And out of those 30 fights, I would say at least 20, probably 20 to 22 of them were title fights in my career.
Yeah.
And I've defended a title multiple times, won multiple titles in multiple weight classes. So it definitely is. It's definitely challenging for me to see what's going on, and unfortunately, I haven't gotten good responses. My management hasn't gotten good responses back as to why. A lot of promotions they say maybe that they're not interested, or they just flat out say they're not interested, and we try to follow up with, hey, okay, that's cool, we respect that. What can we do to catch your interest? And we're just really not getting anything back. Every time I've gotten an excuse back, it seems like it just doesn't make sense because I can point a finger to show why that's BS. You know what I'm saying? Whether it's an age thing, whether it's a record thing, whether it's a finish rate thing, I can always rebut it and say, no, that's not true because you did this with this guy, or I have a better record than this guy, have more finishes and more wins than this guy, So in the end, man, you just don't know. Unfortunately, I just wish there was more of a structure of, how to get to the bigger leagues where it's just X, Y, and Z rather than, something that people don't know,
Yeah. How ready are you? Like if you got a call, let's say Fight Island's happening at the end of May, or they need someone to step up for May 13th or May 16th, and whenever these cards are for the UFC, or June for Bellator. Are you ready for those, or do you want a full training camp to make sure you're good to go with proper training and proper coaching?
Well, weight-wise, I was 128 pounds today, so I could fight at 115. If one FC called me and wanted me to fight at 115, I could do it, I would fight tomorrow if I could for a bigger promotion at 125. I never let myself get out of shape. I'm always doing something. So even if I'm not in fight shape, I'm going to bring it. I'm going to leave it all out there. I fought sick before. When I fought Naoki, I had the flu and ended up going into the hospital with pneumonia right after that. I was shot downstairs. I was so dehydrated and shaking after that fight. I went into that camp pretty much, well, not into the camp, but I finished the camp, pretty sick, and I had a great performance. So, I always, pride myself on being ready, weight-wise, in shape, and I'm win, lose, or draw. I'm going to go out there and give it my all. I'm never going to, lay down for anybody. And I feel like I've shown that. So I just need that opportunity. I could literally fight tomorrow. I've always dreamed that I'm cornering somebody in the UFC and somebody misses weight or gets sick at weigh-ins, kind of like with James Krause. I've always envisioned that for me because that's how much I stay ready. But I wouldn't have to jump up a weight class. I wouldn't even have to jump up to 35. I could literally have them tell me, I need you to make 125 in an hour, and I could make it and make that 125, 126 pound weight and then fight the next day, without a problem. And I feel like I could really finish any of those guys in the UFC at 125 pounds. I train with a lot of those guys, and listen, they're the top guys, and they know even that I belong there by how I'm going in training with these guys. I'm never a pushover at 25 or 35 with any guys I've ever trained with. I've always been hanging in there, I've never been washed up by anybody that I've ever trained with at 25 or 35. So I honestly believe that I could make an impact at either weight class if given the opportunity. Obviously, 25 would be ideal because I'm naturally a 25er, but I wouldn't shy away from 35, as long as I had that opportunity.
Yeah, I think like you even look at your record and the losses you do have. Like you went to decision with, in my opinion, the best 135er in the world, Aljamain Sterling. You've fought some top level guys, and the losses you do have aren't to some random guys in some local promotion. You're fighting UFC caliber guys who have fought in the UFC or who went on to fight for the UFC.
And even my one fight that I feel like possibly the UFC kind of holds over my head was that I think his nickname's Popo, is the Joseph Morales fight.
Yep.
And most people don't understand with that fight that CFFC had contacted me about fighting Danny Martinez months later after that. Like, that's what I was preparing for. It was in the winter time, and I was out snowboarding on the mountain, and I get a call from CFFC talking about me possibly fighting Danny Martinez. And I want to say it was April, right? And
yeah, that fight was on March 25th. So right there.
So the end of April. So I figured, I had a good camp to get back into it. And then I go snowboarding, and I'm enjoying snowboarding. We're in the lodge having a couple drinks, eating. And on the way home, I get a message saying, hey, do you want to fight? It was in, I think, 9 or 10 days in front of Dana. And I'm like, what are you guys talking about? And I saw the email from Uriah Faber saying, hey, I want you to match this guy up. I have a 25er. And so they pulled the kid Joseph, who was actually supposed to fight another UFC guy now. What the hell's his name? State champ. He's from Greg Jackson. Got signed for the Contender Series. I can't think of his name, but awesome dude. It'll probably come to me. But they were supposed to fight 5 rounds, and they pulled him off of it to fight me, and I stepped in, and I flew out to California. I made weight. They changed the date of the event. It was supposed to be on a Sunday, and then they ended up putting it on a Saturday. 0 training camp. A couple days notice I flew out there, and in my opinion, I had a great first round. It was a 10-8 first round across the board. I dominated him. I dropped him the first exchange, took his back, and just mauled him. And then I just gassed, I'm literally going from a snowboarding on the mountain and having a couple of drinks to fighting, less than a week against a guy that got into the UFC. And that's a fight that I always wanted back. And most people just thought like that fight on the looking for a fight, so to speak, was planned and a full training camp and this, that, and the other thing. And I felt like that got held over my head. And people don't realize that kid went in there in his first fight in the UFC and got a $50,000 bonus because he finished the guy in his first fight. And he did well. So that kind of bothered me, but listen, would I pass up that opportunity? Absolutely not. It was a chance for me to show Dana and, Matt and Din, me. And I got to do that for, the first 5 minutes. And unfortunately, I think that kind of got swept because even Dana came up and said, hey, that was a great fight. But I don't think that they really understood like the leading up to that, and I just wish that they gave me another chance against anybody with more than a week's notice in that situation,
Yeah, I think, the guy that he was supposed to fight was Jordan Espinoza. I just pulled it up. But I think that, you're right. The UFC's flyweight division was almost folded at one point, and now it starts to pick up steam again. But I think you're right there. Like you could easily beat, I think some of the guys in the top 10. Yeah. So I think it really is only a matter of time that you get a call from a UFC or a Bellator, and hopefully the UFC, because it's the biggest stage and biggest platform. And like you said, you've competed in front of Dana before. So I'm hoping you get that shot.
I just want to fight the best guys, I still have a lot to prove And me personally, I don't want to end my career as, retiring as, say, the flyweight CFFC champ or having the most fights in CFFC history, because there's always going to be that question in my mind. Even though I know I belong fighting, and I belong with the top guys in the world, I want to prove that. You know what I'm saying? There's always going to be that what if, simply because I didn't get that opportunity. So I feel like not only myself gets robbed, but a lot of the fans gets robbed to have that shown, and I put on great fights, man. I mean, they're fun. I'm either getting beat up or dominated. So it's a fun fight. I always bring it, and I just feel like I put in the time and the work that I deserve a top guy, regardless what promotion it is, whether it's one, whether, it's UFC. I just would love to fight some of the best guys in the world. That's always been my goal, is to compete at the top level and show that I belong.
Yeah. What's your take on the current, I guess, UFC kind of rushing to get these fights out? Obviously you're a fighter, so I'm sure you'd want to get on the card and it wouldn't matter to you, but what's your stance on it? Do you think they're doing the right thing by trying to push this out, or do you think it's probably better and wiser to do what other organizations are doing?
Well, listen, the UFC's always taken the front lead with everything. So if anybody was gonna step up and try to do it, it was definitely gonna be them, and they're capable of doing it. And I feel like they are gonna take the proper safety steps in making sure all the fighters and staff and everything is okay. I mean, the show has to go on. You got all these people that rely on supporting their family, by fighting. And now you take that away, what are they going to do? I mean, you can't get a job. You can't really collect unemployment as a subcontractor with the UFC. So, it puts them in a tough situation. And I respect Dana for going out on the limb and taking what he's been taking from everybody for trying to do it. So I think that it's good. I think it's going to be good. I think it's the start. I think other promotions are going to gradually follow. It's just, he's going to be in hot water if anything happens, and I don't think he cares, which is good. He's going to take it for his fighters, but I do think that he is going to make sure that he does everything in his power to make sure everybody is safe and stuff like that. And I'm actually looking forward. I'm actually going to be cornering Sajara Eubanks on the 13th at her fight. So I'm interested just to see how the promotion puts everything on. Yeah. If it's going to be like Brazil, where they were bussing each individual fight pretty much straight from the hotel to the fight, and then they go right in and fight. I'm a little curious to see and excited to see how that goes. And again, I think the world needs it. I think they need something positive.
Absolutely.
I think right now it's just, there's so much going on with everything. Like, people are just losing themselves, and it's really been crazy, mentally, and I just think it'll be good all around for everybody, especially for people that really enjoy fighting. It gives them some type of hope, especially for me, so I think it's good. Everybody's going to have their own opinion on it, and I pray to God that everybody is going to be safe and they do take the proper precautions in everything, and Dana does follow everything that he says. And I'm really excited to see this Fight Island thing. I think that's kind of interesting. I would love to fight on Fight Island. That'd be awesome.
Yeah, it sounds like some Hunger Games type thing, but I'm all for it.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun. I could tell you this: those 3 fights that are coming up are probably going to be the most watched UFC fights in history, because simply there's nothing else to do, and it's been held back for so long that everybody's going to be glued to the TV for that, Yeah,
so, it's going to bring in hockey fans, basketball fans, football fans, baseball. They're all going to be watching those events.
New on TV that has to do with sports. So
if
you enjoy any type of sport, you're going to be glued to the TV and you're going to watch it.
Yeah. It's also a stacked card. That first one is absolutely stacked.
Yeah. Yep. I'm excited for all of them.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that card? Who do you have winning in the main event? They're Gaethje and Ferguson.
I I'm a big Ferguson fan. I did his seminar. He came and did his very first ever seminar in New Jersey. At when was it? Was it beginning of March, end of February, something like that? And just a cool dude, you know. I've always been excited. I'm a huge fan of 10th Planet. It's right up my alley with style. And you know, he's just careless. You know, I love his style. He gets hit. He keeps coming forward. He's very unpredictable. You know, he's out there and he's like free spirited, which is awesome when he fights. So I think that he's gonna win. I can see him wearing on Gaethje. Gaethje takes a lot of damage, and he's gonna have to use his wrestling, in my opinion. And I'm just, ever since the beatings that Gaethje has taken, nobody can take that much punishment without starting to get chipped away. Yeah. So, you know, I don't see him finishing Ferguson, and I could actually see Ferguson submitting him, you know, or TKOing him. So I'm excited for that fight. It's definitely going to be a barn burner, but I think Ferguson has it. You know, I think it's going to be closer than it was on short notice. Yeah. But I still don't think it changes the outcome of the fight.
I have Gaethje winning for similar reasons, I guess. Like Tony tends to take a beating, but I think it's just going to be. I think the determining factor is if it's an early fight and it's a quick fight. I think Gaethje has it, right. And I think if Tony can weather the storm, I think he pulls away in the end. So yeah. I don't know, but I think this is probably the most exciting fight I've watched in a long time. I'm more excited for this than I was Khabib Tony.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of people don't see it that way.
Well, the fight with Khabib and Tony, you can kind of predict that it was mainly going to be done on the ground. Not saying it wasn't going to be exciting, because I think Tony beats Khabib simply because I don't think Khabib's ever fought somebody that's as active as Tony is off his back. Yeah. So he's not going to sit there and just take a beating. He's going to be throwing elbows, submissions. He's going to be unorthodox getting up. He's not going to be traditional style wrestling with like a stand up or a cage walk. So I was excited for that, but this one is just a completely different fight. I think it goes everywhere. I think it's going to be standing. I think it's going to be takedowns. I think, you know, it's going to be a bloody fight. And, I'm definitely more excited with this one because you really don't know. You knew that Khabib is going to take Ferguson down and it was going to be a dog fight. But with the Gaethje fight, there could be takedowns. It could be stand-up. Like, you just don't know. So, you know, it's definitely, to me, a better fight for the fans.
Yeah. And I guess last question before I let you go. If there are people who aren't familiar with your fights, UFC fans or fans of, I guess, the people who watch my podcast, is there a fight that you would say you got to watch that fight that I was in? Is there a fight that you think was the best of your career?
Best of my career. I would say that the Naoki fight and the Andres, the one right after that. Those two fights. Because I just feel like I'm getting better every fight, and I'm dominating these guys in where they're strongest, and it kind of just doesn't even look fair, you know. And you could see where I think that CFFC didn't think the fights were going to go that way that easily. Like, I think they thought, okay, yeah, you know, Santella, you know, he could win this fight, but after dominating, you know, like, and just mauling these guys, like, you can see on people's faces, like, wow. And I think I'm just getting better. I'm getting more comfortable, and it's scary after 30 fights. Yeah. But that's just me. That's just how I've been. You know, I'm always improving. I'm never going to be stale. I'm always learning. You know, I never have that block up where I feel like I can't get better. So, I would say those two fights. I think my best fight was actually against Nate Williams for PA cage fight, but there's no video of it. And it's because I got to show my stand-up. I dropped him in every round, and I ended up finishing with a rear naked choke. I think I finished him in the third or fourth, but I dropped him.
Third round, yeah.
Yeah, I think I dropped him 4 times. So most people are like, oh, he has no stand-up or this or that. And, you know, I've been dropping people. I dropped that kid, Joseph Morales, who, you know, hats off to him. He ended up, coming back too, and I tried to wrestle him instead of pound him out, which is a mistake I'll never make again. But, you know, again, my last couple fights, they've all been great. So any of those fights. But those two, I think, because of the name. You got Naoki, who is fighting over in Rise, you know, and he's 2-0 over there. They're talking about him fighting for a title, you know. So he just beat a really good guy from like Tiger Muay Thai. So he moved on, and he's actually moved on to a bigger promotion than we fought in, and he's doing well at a higher weight class, 135. Same thing with Andres. He's fighting for the title at 135 in Combat Americas, which is another bigger promotion than CFFC, most people would argue, at a higher weight class. So it's like, dude, I'm dominating these guys, and they're moving on to bigger promotions, fighting for titles, you know? So, you know, I just want my opportunity, man. That's it, you know? But those fights are great. Blood, you know, a lot of striking, a lot of exchanges, a lot of submission attempts, a lot of elbows. They're fun fights to watch, you know? So I feel like all my fights are, though.
Yeah, for sure. All right, man. Well, thank you for taking the time to talk, man, and hopefully you get signed to a big organization. I think you're deserving of it. You've fought the who's who. You've have 30 fights. I think you're number one ranked flyweight outside of a main organization. So fingers crossed you get a fight here soon.
I appreciate it, man. Thanks for having me, and thank you for all the support.
Yep. All right, man. Have a good one. Stay safe.
You too. Take care.